When you turn on Western news, you might get the impression that China is this evil empire, constantly plotting an invasion of Taiwan. The media loves to play on fears, and they've done a great job of convincing many people, especially in the West, that China is a hair's breadth away from attacking Taiwan. But here's the problem. It's not even close to that. The Western narrative has painted China as a constant aggressor in the region, and in doing so, they've ignored the facts. Most Westerners don't even know the history behind Taiwan's relationship with China. They're fed the story that Taiwan is a democratic, free nation, and therefore must be defended at all costs. What they often miss is that Taiwan is in fact historically and culturally tied to China. The separation is a result of Japan's imperialism during World War II, not some natural division, or a decision made by the Chinese people. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. The Western media has done a brilliant job of using Taiwan's democratic status as a pawn in the geopolitical game, but they often fail to point out that Taiwan didn't just choose to be separate from China. It was taken by Japan during its aggressive expansion in the early 20th century. If we want to truly understand the relationship between China and Taiwan, we need to throw out the Western propaganda and look at things from a historical and factual standpoint.
Taiwan's separation. Blame Japan, not China.
To truly understand why China won't invade Taiwan, we need to look at the real reason Taiwan and China became separated. This wasn't China's choice, it was Japan's doing. Taiwan was taken by Japan in 1895 after the First Sino-Japanese War. Under Japanese rule, Taiwan was heavily exploited, and the local population faced brutal treatment. Japan's imperial expansion didn't stop at Taiwan. It spread across much of Southeast Asia, including Korea and parts of China. So when you look at Taiwan's separation from China, it's not just a matter of politics, it's a matter of historical injustice caused by Japan. After World War II, the Japanese lost their empire, and Taiwan was handed back to China. But the damage was done. Taiwan had been under foreign control for decades, and the people there had different experiences than those living on the mainland. The separation was a result of a brutal war, not a peaceful decision by China. Taiwan's separation from China was in fact a result of Japan's imperialism, and that fact is often ignored in the media narrative. The reality is that Taiwan's independence didn't come from a democratic movement. It came from foreign occupation. If the West truly cared about historical context, they would acknowledge this rather than pretending Taiwan's current status is just a random accident of history. It wasn't. Taiwan was taken by Japan, and after Japan's defeat, Taiwan was rightfully returned to China.
Why China won't invade Taiwan?
Okay, so let's get down to the crux of the matter. Why won't China invade Taiwan? If Taiwan is so important and China sees it as part of its territory, why doesn't China just take it by force? There are a few major reasons for this, and they all revolve around China's long-term goals and their relationship with the people of Taiwan. First of all, China already considers Taiwan part of its territory. The One China policy has been a cornerstone of Chinese foreign policy since the 1970s. China doesn't need to invade Taiwan to claim it, they already consider it part of their nation. This isn't about conquering another state, it's about reclaiming land that was taken by force during Japan's imperial expansion. Second, an invasion would be a disaster. While China may want reunification with Taiwan, they're not foolish enough to risk an all-out war over it. Think about it. If China were to invade Taiwan, there's a good chance the Taiwanese people would resist. Most Taiwanese citizens identify as Taiwanese, not Chinese, and they wouldn't just accept a military occupation. In fact, it's likely that such an invasion would lead to a full-blown rebellion with widespread resistance from the local population. Now, let's not forget the international consequences. A Chinese invasion of Taiwan would almost certainly trigger a military response from the United States and its allies. It would cause massive instability in the region, and the economic fallout would be catastrophic. This isn't just about China's relationship with Taiwan, it's about global politics. Invading Taiwan would put China at odds with most of the Western world, and that's not something China is willing to risk. The reality is, an invasion of Taiwan would create chaos for China, not bring it the glory that some in the West think.
It's not about Taiwan's semiconductor. Another theory that gets thrown around is the idea that China wants Taiwan for its semiconductor industry. Taiwan is home to TSMC, the world's largest semiconductor manufacturer, and some believe China would invade just to get its hands on this valuable asset. But here's the thing, that's a load of nonsense. China has been pushing the One China policy long before TSMC even existed. The One China policy is about Taiwan's historical connection to China, not about chips or factories. In fact, China has been making significant progress in developing its own semiconductor industry, and while TSMC is important, it's hardly the only reason China cares about Taiwan. If China really wanted Taiwan for its semiconductors, they could simply invest in building their own industry. The semiconductor myth is just a convenient excuse for people who don't understand the deeper political and historical context. Taiwan is important to China because it represents a part of their national history, one that was taken from them by Japan during World War II.
It's also not about democracy. Now, let's take a look at the role of the United States in all of this. Many people believe that the US is defending Taiwan because it's a democratic state, but this couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that the US has always used Taiwan as a strategic pawn in its geopolitical chess game. If the US truly cared about democracy, it wouldn't have supported China's communist government during the Mao Zedong era. Yet, that's exactly what the US did. In fact, the US was more than willing to work with the communist China when it suited their interests. So when people talk about defending Taiwan to protect democracy, we have to ask, why didn't the US defend China's democracy back in the 1970s when it was under Mao's rule? The truth is, the US isn't concerned about Taiwan's democratic status. They're concerned about its strategic location. Taiwan lies at the heart of the First Island Chain, a crucial area for US military operations in the Pacific. If China were to control Taiwan, it would severely limit US influence in the region. Taiwan is valuable to the US because it helps contain China's military power, not because it's a beacon of democracy.
Why China won't go to war? Finally, let's talk about the real reason China won't invade Taiwan. They value their people. Remember the one-child policy? It's not just some relic of the past. It has shaped China's attitudes toward war. Sending thousands of soldiers to die in a conflict over Taiwan would be a massive loss for China, and the Chinese government knows it. The Chinese people have a long memory, and they're not likely to support a war that results in the deaths of young men, especially considering the country's aging population. Imagine the outrage if China sent its only children to die on the battlefield. The government would face massive protests, and the social fallout would be severe. China has avoided war for over 40 years, and they're not about to throw that piece away just to reunite with Taiwan. The US, on the other hand, has been at war almost constantly since the 20th century. Their attitudes toward military conflict are different because they've never experienced the same kind of loss that China has. For China, war is not just about territory, it's about the lives of its people.
China isn't the aggressor. So to wrap things up, China won't invade Taiwan. It's not about military strategy. It's about history, justice, and the well-being of its people. The media likes to paint China as the aggressor, but the truth is far more nuanced. Taiwan has always been a part of China, and the separation was due to Japan's brutal occupation. China doesn't need to invade Taiwan. They already consider it part of their territory. The US might want Taiwan for its strategic location, but China isn't interested in war for the sake of power. They value their people too much to risk a conflict that would cost them lives and stability. So the next time someone tells you that China is about to invade Taiwan, just remember, it's not going to happen. So what do you think? Do you agree with our video? Tell us what you think by leaving your comments below. If you like what you watched, hit the like button, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.